All right, I wanted to show a couple more options regarding the Mormon Cannery. A lot of people have been making videos about the Mormon Canneries. They can be a little bit tricky to find. They're part of the Mormon church system. They are not part of a general overall charity system. So a lot of people get confused over whether or not the Mormon Cannery is a food bank, because in some cities and some places they run food banks at the Mormon Cannery which are public access, and other ones are internal to the Mormon Church. So at the ones which are internal to the Mormon Church here in Portland, Oregon, there is one which resembles a co-op grocery store on the inside, but that's not a general public thing. It's internal to the Mormon Church. The part that has to do with the home food storage center is in the same building, and that's where we get the bulk foods. Now, they're going to come in their own packaging that a lot of times it will, says it's from the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints or Deseret Industries, which is one of the charitable organizations that's associated with the Mormon Church. The thing is, on the packaging, they will only allow canning and packaging at their facility of their own food. So, for example, I had this 50-pound bag of rice that I bought at a restaurant supply place. It was part of my preps from around a year ago. I wanted to repackage that to be heavier duty packaging, kind of like what they use at the cannery. And they can't allow that in. They can't allow mixing. It's a one-way street with the Mormon Cannery and their own internal food bank system. It comes from their own sources. You don't donate food there. You don't donate canned food. If somebody is in the need of charity or you want to donate to charity, that's not the way it works with them. They'll accept cash donations, and then to get food there, you either would have to be a Mormon or you would buy it, and it's purchased at the nonprofit level. The other thing is, there are some situations where you can purchase food at the nonprofit level on some deals that are associated with missionary organizations. So if the Mormon Church is involved with missionary stuff, it may or may not have been donated by them. It may have been purchased by another charitable organization from the Mormons, charitable organization or charitable organization. So when you get the beans or the rice from them, it's going to be in their packaging. If it's in the big packaging, of course, you got your USDA labeling. In the smaller packaging, if you package it yourself at home, you don't get the labels. If you package it there, and there's obviously a guarantee of what's actually in the package, then you get their labels. So I had the rice that I purchased elsewhere, and I wanted to package it. And the only way that I would do that, according to their rules, is I would buy the packaging and take it home and do that myself. And that's how I discovered the heavy Mylar and plastic packaging they have. This stuff is absolutely amazing. It's 30 cents for one of these pouches, whether you buy one of them or 100 of them. And 30 cents each. You seal them. I tried them with a seal-a-meal at first. I have one of the really good vacuum ones. Didn't work out at all. Also, it didn't seem to create enough vacuum to actually suck one of these things down to shrink the packaging. A common, ordinary household iron is probably the best way to seal this stuff. And it's heavier than the bag packaging I've seen with the 5-gallon bucket stuff. I'm going to make another trip over to that Portland Preparedness Center, and I want to make a comparison between this and the larger packaging. One of the reasons I like the smaller packaging is that it allows me to create a rationing system for, what's going to be a 1-week package or a 2-week package or a 3-day package or something like that. I can also make my own MRE type of thing out of this and expect it to be more heavy duty than using the regular seal-a-meal bags that other people use when they make their own ration packs. It's almost a 2-person operation to seal these things. You would fill it. Here I filled several bags with the rice out of the 50-pound bag, and then you flatten it out on something. Make sure there's no contamination in the area that you're going to seal. And this is where it really helps if it's a 2-person operation, because one person's holding this in each hand, flattening it out, preferably on a piece of unfinished wood. So I wouldn't use this finely finished table for it. And another person goes over that with an iron. That gives you a good initial seal. Flip it over, go over it with an iron again, and make sure you flattened out any bubbles. And you're done. Now, here's a couple little secrets. One, the Mormon storehouses are set up for regular food grade standards, which means the food will be stored in these bags. And the cardboard and the paper that's involved in the packaging acts as its own oxygen absorber. When you put something in that's fully air sealed, then you've got to add some oxygen absorbers. Unfortunately, they include these. These are right here. You have to pay for them. They're 10 cents each. And they recommend one of these for each one of these bags. I found myself, just to be on the safe side, if there's any doubt whether or not I'd, let's say, put one in there, a second one is good. The other thing you can do is you can add the larger oxygen absorbers that may come with other things. For example, I do television and electronic installations and buy stuff at Harbor Freight, and a lot of times that comes with oxygen absorbers too. The question is whether or not these are food safe. So if you put, and you don't eat these things, but these may or may not be food safe. But here's the thing I found. If I seal this stuff up, and you make a hobby little project of doing the bag sealing in really hot, preferably hot, dry weather, then what happens is the air that gets trapped in there with the stuff that you're sealing, and there's always going to be some air in there no matter what, the air that you trap in there is going to be expanded, okay? And then if you do it in dry weather, you want to do it when the air in there is expanded and dry. Preferably with lower moisture is better. So we put the air in there that's expanded and dry, and it's kind of impossible to avoid having, you know, a little bit of air bubble going on in there. But what happens is, if you take that and you put that in a cooler environment, it had the oxygen absorber in there, what happens is the bag will suck down on its own. I found this happen with about 80% of my bags that I pre-package myself. I put them in a tote bin container because these are not really rodent proof, and they suck down all on their own. That's the way it happened. 80% of the bags will do that. And if they do suck down on their own with just a temperature change, you know for certain you have a really good seal. Now, the reason they may not all do that is there's always a possibility of a microscopic air package somewhere in a seal, somewhere inside of a wrinkle or something like that. And that's why the Mormon Cannery people would not guarantee these bags for wet food. There are other people who do use these for wet food, but it becomes more difficult to predict the storage life on that. So we were having a discussion, and because not all of these will go 100% super airtight every single time, they're not going to guarantee them for wet food. But I think that if you simply went with your own system of checking to see if it's sucked down on there, you could kind of, you know, have a pretty good chance of knowing that it's been fully sealed. The other thing would be that if you're not trying to go long term with the stuff, let's say you're still keeping it in a refrigerated area or a cooled area, but you want better sealing than you would get with simple plastic wrapping, these 30-cent things would be great for processing game, salvaging salting meat, and things like that, especially if you're brining your meat. If you're brining the meat, then that's a good way to go. I'll talk a little bit more about this, but that's pretty much the end of the intro on this stuff using the bags. As far as brining meat and fish, I think it's possible to work with these bags and brine meat and fish. And then refrigerating or freezing it is going to vastly increase your storage life on the stuff because you've virtually eliminated chances of freezer burn. Especially if you can figure out a system for actually pulling these down and going with a better seal as far as vacuuming. But you got to realize this is heavy duty stuff, so the regular vacuum sealers aren't quite doing it. But I don't know, I might do a little more discussion on this stuff later on. Labeling on these, if you package it there, they'll give you a label, and what happens is the label will have the pouch stuff and the can stuff, but the weights may not be 100% consistent. I've got to answer her phone, and we'll do more videos today later.